What do we know about these latest round of strikes conducted by Russia, some of the worst in the war so far?
And they followed another big airstrike as, we know over the weekend across Ukraine. It does prove that to the Ukrainians, the Russians, can strike most areas of Ukraine at the moment. It is very demoralizing, for the population. We are nearly into the third year of the war. The is behind, or certainly my assessment, if We've had Zaska, which is where the nuclear facility is new, target Kyiv of. Course the capital Kyiv wears awful lot of military activity around that area, as part of the ongoing offensive, from the Russians' defense from the Ukrainians. But there is a sort of feeling that as we move towards winter, that what the Russians are trying to do is they respond to the incursion. Of course, one is another. One keep pressure up on the Ukrainian people and maybe even begin to degrade the electricity supply, so the Ukrainians go into basically a third year of war through the winter, which is tough enough already in that part of the world with appalling heating, lighting, etc. With a view perhaps to driving a political settlement in Putin's favor. And do you think there's an element of Russia trying to reassert control as well? Very much so. And the narrative, of course, the narrative early on was how ghastly the Ukrainians was, and neo-Nazis and the staff. So now to an extent the Ukrainians have stabilized the front. They've taken the initiative in the KK offense, and we could talk about the significance of that. And Putin, of course, got his own domestic audience, because a lot of Russians are saying, what's going on? This was supposed to be a special military operation all over in several days, and here we are headed towards 2025. So he's got to play to his hard line, and he's got to play to this sense of Russian humiliation to an extent, and that makes him dangerous. But at the heart of it, of course, as you said, is young men, women, children whose lives have been ruined or who've been killed, wounded by these strikes.
Yeah, I guess President Putin has a lot of explaining to do to a lot of France. So let's talk about the K region. Ukraine's very bold incursion into Russia. What's the latest on that you can share with us?
It is very bold, and you can see how far away in geographical terms that is a big piece of land there. We've been focusing, of course, around Cook KV and that sort of static line where the attrition's been taking place, horrible levels of conflict there, and suddenly the Ukrainians have crossed the border in the Kur region. You could put Belgrade on as well, to an extent, because that's where a lot of the supplies come down for the Russian troops there. Now it's bold, and this is a very mythological area for the Russians, because this is the area over which they fought at huge cost against the Germans in the Second World War. So Kur KV Bulud are absolutely deep in the psyche of the Russians, so to find Ukrainians taking the fight in there is interesting. In the Kur offenses could go three ways. They could expand it could keep on the offensive. It would really unsettle the Russian defenses, including their logistics for their troops in Ukraine. It could sit there and draw people away from the front line in order to try and pin pants that off, or equally, of course, it could back fire on the Ukrainians, because they've committed quite a lot of foreign equipment into that, and sit there being just managed by the Russians with no real effect on what's going on the ground in the Donbass. So there are three sort of potential outcomes which will play out over the next few weeks, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a real strategic, it is, and again, it's part of the narrative, the strategic level, at putting pressure on Putin and his commanders, and will really hurt them, because this, as I say, has sort of mythical, whatever, but the
I didn't realize the symbolism and significance of that region from Hugcasties F. I have a very quick question to add on for you. And where is this all heading? Because this is now, as you say, year 3 approaching. Where does it all end? At one point Ukraine did say, I spoke to a senior advisor to President Zelensky last week, who said, look, this is part of trying to negotiate some kind of fair negotiation and settlement with Russia. Is that really likely, though?
That's an interesting use of words, because originally it was we want Crimea back and the Bass were now looking for a fair thing. There are prisoners involved, there's obviously land involved, there's ego involved, and so there is a lot. I mean, war is a political act, as Klus said, so people are looking for way, but this also depends very much on how the West continue to support Ukraine to stay in the fight. So again, the incursion in KK is an important demonstration to those of us who supply the West, Britain, United States, France, Germany, etc., that Ukraine is not going to simply sit back in a war of attrition against the Russians, which they would lose. They are going to maneuver, they're going to take the offensive, they're going to surprise the Russians, they're going to use the equipment they've been given to keep changing the dynamic with a view of course to a fair outcome, whatever that fair outcome might be at the end of it. Thanks for watching this video.